Hi, welcome to the Adaptation Station, the show where we read books and their movie adaptations. One of us reads the book before watching the movie, the other watches the movie and then reads the book. We give you our recommendation for which order gives you the best experience. And today's episode is The Black Phone.
Yeah, The Black Phone is a short story written by Joe Hill, and it appears in the collection 20th Century Ghosts, which was first published in 2005 in the UK, and then in the US published in 2007. Joe Hill, for those not aware, is Stephen King's son, who I believe he adopted that pseudonym so he could see if he could get popular without
the King
using
name.
The King name.
That's what I guessed.
And 20th Century Ghosts was his first published book. I think it was.
Oh, really?
I think what I saw was his first published book length thing. You know, it's not a novel. He had published probably the short stories within this book in other publications, but this is his first book length publication. And currently on Goodreads, it has a score of 3.9 out of 5.
Really
which
good.
is a 7.8
For the whole collection?
For the whole collection, yes, that's true.
Oh,
that's the whole collection.
cool.
Yeah, which is about a boy who gets kidnapped, and where he's held captive. There's this phone on the wall that doesn't work, but it starts ringing and telling him stuff. I'm not going to get too into
don't
it,
spoil
but
too
that's
much.
the
It's a short
basic
story.
premise. It's a short story. It's 20 pages long, so.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll tell you about the movie also with not too many or any spoilers. Yeah, no spoilers. So the Black Phone movie is a horror movie that was originally supposed to be released in theaters in early 2021, like January 2021, I think. Right? But
I don't remember. I didn't remember it was that long ago.
I don't know the specific
Yeah.
date. I just said that, but it was supposed to be published.
Released.
Okay. The movie Black Phone was supposed to be released in theaters earlier than it was. It was pushed back due to the pandemic, and it was released in the summer of 2022. It is a Blumhouse production, directed, screenwritten, and co-produced by Scott Derrickson, who also directed the first Doctor Strange movie. The movie stars Mason Thames as Finney, the 13-year-old boy, Ethan Hawke as the Grabber, and Madeline McGraw as Finn's sister Gwen. The Black Phone movie has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 84% according to the critics and 90% according to the audience.
Now, I think maybe a note on Rotten Tomatoes score on this one to enlighten you as to what we just did. We just watched it in the theaters opening weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's what these scores are as of opening weekend. And I know that the Rotten Tomatoes scores, probably in both cases, critics and audience, will over time change. So that's the scores right now, early on.
Maybe we could put a note
We might,
to see how it changed when we released this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just as far as our comparison goes. That doesn't change our ratings at all.
Yeah. What's really important is how we rated each of these. So let's get into our ratings. Should I
Yeah,
give your
so
ratings?
I read the story first, and I rated that an 8.1 out of 10. And then watching the movie afterward, I give it a 6.7.
Wowza. Okay, I watched the movie first and then read the story. I gave the movie a 7.6 out of 10. And then I read the story, gave it a 6.5
Whoa.
out of 10.
Whoa. Yeah.
So these scores are different. We need to talk about them. But before we do, here's your spoiler alert. We're going to talk about the details of the movie and the story now. So if you haven't read or watched and you care about spoilers, skip over to the conclusion at the end. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, first off, thing on the scores, as I was watching the movie, I was very aware that having read the story first, it was kind of ruining the movie for me a little bit.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen.
It was kind of like a throwback to first episode of season 1, to The Last Duel,
Last Duel.
where because I knew it was going to happen, especially for like a suspenseful movie. It's kind of like takes some of that away. Obviously, they had to add a lot more things around it.
Oh, for sure.
But I think it also could have been better if they changed it a lot more. I think I would have enjoyed it, because then I don't know what to expect. The things that were similar, they kept very much the same for most things. Basically, it's kind of like the middle part. There was a part of it like right after he gets taken and put in the room that is almost exactly the same as in the book. Like the dialogue is the same.
I noticed reading the story right after we watched it. So much of the dialogue in the story was exactly the same in the movie.
And so it's that kind of thing where the couple things that they changed, I was just so aware of it, and I liked the story so much when I read it first that it kind of made the movie seem like it wasn't as great.
Yeah, this is similar to our last Duel episode.
And I guess my impression, before we get into like differences and stuff, my impression for the story, why I liked it so much reading that first, is like it's very quick paced. It's something that definitely kept me interested the whole time, and it was tense enough, and it just keeps kind of going, and it ends at a dramatic moment. And I like it because it ends like on a dramatic note, on a high note, where it's clear what's gonna happen, and it ends at like the satisfying moment where like the kid's when the phone rings while he's strangling him with it, and he's like, "It's for you," That's it.
But you don't hear what the phone says. But you know what's happening.
But you know what it's gonna do. So it's very satisfying. That's why I liked it so much. To me, the movie ruined the pace, because you have to spread it out over a whole movie, adding in parts that are slower and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't end on the same note, all that kind of stuff.
That's interesting, because I kind of had the opposite experience, not just because it was the opposite order, but reading the story made me kind of want more out of it, just because, well, probably because I got all the middle stuff in the movie, and I knew the basic plot that was going to happen. But I don't know, for me in short stories, since they're so short, I usually want something more impressionistic.
That seems to be a different impressionistic.
Just something like Raymond Carver's Why Don't You Dance, something that's like just like some scenes, and it doesn't give you much, but the plot, like the idea of the Black Phone, to me seems like more of like an adventure horror thriller story that you can't really it didn't satisfy me, and like how short it was.
I was kind of thinking that while it did satisfy me, that it could almost have been fleshed out into a whole novel and been good. I think that it was written really well in that way, and it did make me feel that kind of way, where it's not as subtle as Raymond Carver kind of thing, where you're like, there's a whole world here, but we're only getting this part of it, and I don't need any more of it.
That's the thing that like I almost wanted to put it in like the 7 out of 10 range, but I might have, if it was a whole novel, if I could get more. It's like I was interested enough to want more. It's just like by the end there wasn't enough backstory for me to care enough about him killing the guy, if that makes sense. It's like there wasn't enough fighting to lead up to it. If there were more, it would have been like more triumphant. But I did, like you said, it was well written. I liked some just sentences, some passages from the story. That 6.5 means like it's got something to offer. So I want to read some of the other stories from this now, or maybe just read a full novel to get more of a story. Because this is the first thing I've ever read by Joe Hill.
Yeah, and I have read this whole collection, and I've read Horns, and I've read Heart-Shaped Box. So I've read a few. I don't really. It's been a while. I think I probably read this like shortly after it was published, so it's probably been 15 years, probably 10 years since I've read anything of his. So not that I remember very much of it, but I liked it enough to read that much of it, of his stuff.
That's a good recommendation. So do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I guess that I threw that out there real fast, but I would recommend Horns at least. As an actual recommendation. I remember enough about that one to be like, that's like a weird kind of, a weird story, but it's different than, a little bit different than something I had read before. So
there's a recommendation, Horns by Joe Hill. Cool. So do you want to talk about the movie more? Because we kind of start with the story.
Yeah, we can talk about the movie more. I kind of have like a general impression, if you want to do general impressions before we go into differences. Do you have a general impression, because you watched the movie first?
Yeah, I jotted down some notes after just watching the movie. So here's my impressions from that. Is I thought it was good. It was tense, kept me interested. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, where do they find such good child actors?
Yeah, they're getting better at that nowadays. Like Stranger Things is a good example of that.
That's a good comparison, because it's like so many of the characters are children. But in particular, I thought the sister.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that just now.
Madeline McGraw.
Yeah, I mean, it's
sister.
a tough the scene where their dad is beating her. And she's crying like that. She did a really good job at that part. I would imagine that would be a tough thing to act for anybody. For anybody, a child.
Yeah, so that's an actress to watch out for, Madeline McGraw. But yeah, the main guy too, what was his name? Mason Thames as Finn was also good. Like when he gives up trying to open the freezer, and then he's crying too. I don't know. He was a good actor too. So a lot of good child actors. Other impressions. Well, I didn't think it was like the most groundbreaking or like new thing ever. So that's why it wasn't like great or anything, but just kind of good. Yeah, that kind of impression is also similar to what I thought, which is, and it's also, your score is about what I was thinking, while I was even still watching the movie, of like, I bet I would rate this somewhere in the 7s if I hadn't read the story first and didn't know what was going on. That I probably rated a little bit higher, not like amazing, but kind of like in the mid-range of good, kind of thing. 7.5 is basically that, right? 3.5 stars. It's like, that's exactly in the middle range of the upper half of scores from 5 to 10. Split it in half, and there you go. Yeah, that was pretty much.
What'd you give it? 7.6.
7.6. Yeah, that was pretty much exactly my impression. I just wanted to put a little higher than Last Duel, which I gave a 7.5.
Oh.
But yeah, because it wasn't like too repetitive. Yeah, so it was good. Not much bad to say about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, it's like nothing super new that blew me away.
I think that same kind of thing. I almost thought that, like, I wished it picked, one of the, like, I don't know what I want to say, edgy or different style or something. That there were a couple of things that I did like from it that would have been cool if they did it more or more consistently throughout the whole movie, like the whole dream sequence parts where it would... Like, especially the last one that was the longest one, where
when she gets
in the cop car with him, is it starts as like a flashback where you don't have it and the dream sequence is like a film grain added, and it's like switching between the two, and as it's transitioning, which is a really cool thing. Really, and then to see her there first and go like, wait a minute, what part is it?
Yeah,
and then
just in the memory,
she gets in the cop car, and then you're like, oh, this is the dream, and she's in the dream, and like that was really cool, and they should have done a lot more of that, in my opinion.
That would have set it apart.
And so that was one thing that I liked. And then also, what was that kid in that flashback? Was Vince or something like that with a V? Vince or Vance or something like that, wasn't
guy?
It? Yeah, the pinball guy. Whatever his name was. Right after that dream sequence, it goes back to Finn on the phone, and he's behind him, and he like yells at him, and then he gets like sucked away into the darkness or whatever. That was cool too, but they didn't do that with any of the other kids. They were just like standing there, and then they just go away. Like that was really cool. They could have done a lot more of that kind of stuff, which would have made it a lot more unique of a movie and pushed it up a little bit higher. And then also another scene that stuck out to me in that same vein was the sequence where everybody is like converging, where Finn is like putting dirt in the phone or whatever, Max is like figuring out that his brother, it might be the kidnapper, and who I don't think they say the kidnapper's name in the movie, do they? In the book is Al, the grabber. Yeah, the grabber.
Don't give him a name,
they call him Al in the book.
Albert.
but yeah, the grabber is at the hardware store and then coming back, and then the police are on their way, and it does it plays like music over that, real stylistic music.
Yeah.
It was cool, but they only like did it like that one time as far as like bringing it all together in a big like scene like that. If it had been throughout the movie, kind of how like something maybe like Quentin Tarantino incorporates music so much throughout the whole movie, that kind of thing. But it's only like these things are like one part each, where they have their big moment.
Yeah.
But so it's not cohesive. That's kind of a part why I was like, that also kind of lowers it for me. Is like, ooh, pick one of these. It like teases you a little bit, but it doesn't give you a personality. And otherwise, other than that stuff, it's kind of just like a normal movie.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes those different parts to me stand out, as like, whoa, where did this come from stylistically? And that's about it. I mean, I talked about the pacing and in terms of adding more things into the movie that I notice, obviously that's not in the book, is it makes you notice that stuff more, and it makes me realize, oh, somebody thought to add this stuff in specifically, and which makes it to me almost seem over the top and unnecessary to what the story was in a way. One thing, like their dad being an alcoholic and beating them and stuff, like it didn't really matter that was part of the movie. Like they had him come and apologize at the end, but it wasn't necessary really for any of it. Like, and even him being bullied doesn't. I mean, that only sets up the character of his other friend. What was his name?
Robin. Yeah, he wasn't even Robin in the story. Yeah, Robin.
No. Yeah. That's his last name. I don't remember if that was the same. He was Robin. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't in the story at all. Just
but it's fine that he's added. That's kind of cool. Because
he teaches him how to fight.
But it seems like the bullying thing is only there to show that Robin is Finn's friend. None of those things matter in terms of Finn being kidnapped and having to overcome that, except for I guess they give him the whole like, one day you're gonna have to stand up for yourself. That seemed a little cheesy to me in the framework of a horror movie. It's like, this is that kind of stuff. And then the other thing about like Gwen like losing her religion at one point. Like she was like praying to Jesus, like, show me more of these dreams, and then she's like, but maybe Jesus doesn't exist, and I was like, why is that in there?
That's a big difference I noted after reading the story, is that in the story she's not religious, she's occultish. Yeah, and they have like this almost twin-like connection, even though the older sister Susanna, not younger sister Gwen.
Yeah. I forgot her name. Yeah, in the book.
Yeah, in the story.
But yeah, and 3 years older too, which is all right, one thing.
So that's the difference. She's
and that
an
is
older sister named Susanna. They were born on the same day, 3 years apart. So they have like a twin-like connection.
And I really liked that part in the book. It's one of my favorite parts in the book, where he's like he's just imagining that she's out looking for him, doing the same thing that she does in the movie, looking for him, going past the different houses and looking and seeing seeing what's going on, and then she sees the black balloons caught in like the telephone wires or whatever, the power lines or something, and he just imagines that, and then he wakes up, and then later when he's on the phone talking to a kid on the phone, like near the end, or not quite at the very end, but it's
Bruce. Yeah,
is it Bruce? Says, he's like
that was real. Like,
that was real. She saw those balloons, and ask her about it when you get out. Like that was cool,
ask her when you get home.
And that's it's different because also obviously for the movie they added the fact that she's, like got the power to see real things in her dreams. Like that's not how it's portrayed in the book, which makes it kind of or not the book but the story. The story, it makes it.
It's a little more subtle.
In the book, and I like that, and I like that it's more of a grounded in reality, like connection between siblings.
Yeah, they both have it, because he has the dream in the story. He's the one that has the dream vision in a way that's real. Yeah. So that's an interesting difference there. I had some other stuff about the movie that I jotted down just after watching the movie. I was knowing that it was a Joe Hill story that I hadn't read, but I just felt like it was a very Stephen King type story. Like if I didn't know, I might have thought, oh, this seems like a Stephen King.
Yeah, it does.
For lots of reasons. I mean, just kids facing horrible stuff, and needing to be resilient. That's in a lot of
Yeah.
his stories. The dialogue in general seems very Stephen King in the movie. Not just the ones they take from the story now after reading it, but the things like the kids repeating the lines that they said to Finn to the grabber over the phone, like, that arm is mint.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and almost the fact that they added in, his sister having like more powers type of thing. That's a very Stephen King type of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I was thinking, even before reading the story, I jotted down in my notes. I haven't read Joe Hill yet, but I'm interested to see how Stephen King-esque the story would be. And then I also wrote down the question: are Hill stories included in the Stephen King multiverse? Because now I don't know about that, but in the movie, like you said, it seemed more like that because of the daughter, the sister having the powers, and the whole mother-daughter thing where they both have that power.
Yeah,
in the movie. I was like,
well,
seems
it could
like
be.
they just
could
put
be
the Shining in there. Yeah,
and the fact that Finn is able to hear the phone and talk to dead people, that's basically what The Shining is.
Yeah, so now after reading the story, it makes me think more like, okay, the director is just a Stephen King fan. And
yeah.
He's like, let me throw more Stephen King stuff.
That's what it kind of seems like.
In my adaptation. Okay, that's pretty much all my impressions on the movie to mention, other than some things that I can, some differences after reading the story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we already mentioned Susanna. It's an older sister named Susanna. She's into occultish stuff, not religious stuff. But also in the movie, was his name John?
No, in the movie he was Finney Blake. They were the Blake family. So yeah, I know. It's like in the book he's John Finney.
Yeah, and then the grabber calls him Johnny.
In the movie.
In the movie he calls him Johnny.
They kept that part from the book where in the book he's like unsettled that he knows his name.
Yeah.
But in the movie he said Johnny and he didn't react, and by then I wasn't sure yet whether that was his name yet. Although I was sort of sure because his dad called him Finn, which is a weird thing to call your own son your own last name as a nickname. You know what I mean? It seems kind of weird, but
yeah, when I saw the movie, I thought he was just calling him a random name, like it's gonna be all right, Johnny.
Which
boy.
is it's how it was portrayed. But I don't know why they changed that.
Then I read the story and he calls him Johnny, and John Finney is like, oh no, he knows my name.
Yeah,
I'm like, why did they take that dialogue and call him Johnny?
I don't know. Why did they change his name?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why did they change Susanna's name to Gwen?
And make her younger. And
like,
religious?
Yeah. Why don't they do it like they did it in the story?
Say it every time. Yeah, I don't know. But the other big difference that I noticed is right at the beginning, and I'm just going to grab it and read it. When they introduce the grabber.
Yeah, that he's like right grotesquely fat or whatever.
Exactly. He wasn't any kind of fat.
Yeah.
But grotesquely fat.
Yeah.
His head had been shaved to
I forgot
a glossy
about that.
polish.
I forgot about that.
Ethan Hawke had long...
It was like the
very
opposite.
Clean hair, yeah. And then there were 2 plump folds of skin where his neck met the base of his skull. He wore a loud Hawaiian shirt, toucans nestled among hanging creepers, although it was too cool for short sleeves. Ethan Hawke was dressed like all black.
Yeah.
Long, luscious hair.
Yeah.
Pretty thin, kind of muscular. Maybe
the only thing that was the same is he like did the drop the groceries thing.
Yeah, the drop the groceries.
But played it up like a lot in the movie. Whoa. Like in the book, like it was just like in hindsight, it was probably practiced. But it seems like it was done better.
Because he was trying to open the door too with the groceries in the story, and I was like, oh no.
And then I don't know, for some reason that seemed weird to me is like it was what kind of spray was it supposed to be in the movie, because in the book it's wasp spray and
it's all foamy
and it goes all over his face and in his eyes, which is the big part of him not being able to see when he's first taken. But in the movie he just like sprays it into his mouth, directly in his mouth, and it's just like a clear aerosol thing.
Yeah, and they take the dialogue. I remember in the movie he's first waking up and he says something. He's like, "Oh, you probably can't see."
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't spray it in his eyes.
No, it's like, why can't he see?
Yeah.
But that's another... Actually, there's a thing involved in the kidnapping that bothered me about the movie is why did he let him keep the spaceship flashlight that he stabbed him with?
Oh, yeah.
clearly he stabbed him with something.
Yeah.
You know, and so while he was unconscious and he threw him on the bed, why didn't he just take it from him? Like.
Yeah, did he cut him with it and then put it in his pocket? Well, he
and
was
then,
also becoming unconscious.
And then the kidnapper didn't search his pockets at all to see if he had something that would help him get out. He seemed like he's pretty prepared for everything else.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird
that is
thing.
Weird. And that's not in the story at all. A little.
It doesn't necessarily matter because I don't think that thing really helps him that much.
He cuts the phone cord with it.
Yeah, but they could have done that like in the story too because he uses his teeth in the story.
I was thinking that could have been better. Yeah.
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 Also, those phone plugs, I'm pretty sure just like unplug from the phone, the cord.
Yeah,
you know, I'm pretty sure you could. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's a newer thing to have them more modular, and maybe that phone isn't like that.
But you know, it's a weird thing that they changed, and I don't know why. Is in the movie it was like the curly one.
It was Oh yeah, that's right. He said it was straight because it was old.
In the story,
it was an old straight phone cord.
Yeah, they point that out specifically that it's not curly like the new ones. It's an old one with a straight cord.
Mm-hmm.
Which probably makes more sense to choke with because the curly
you'd
ones
have to
stretch
really
too
pull
much.
it. Yeah, and that part about him being grotesquely fat or whatever plays in the story
to the fact that he can fight him.
That he can fight him. It makes more sense that he can fight him that way because he tests it out in the story. Like one time when he has the door open, he gets up really fast and starts yelling, and he like stumbles. You know, the grabber stumbles as he and he's like, oh, I'm faster than him.
Yeah,
you know, but and then. Also, when the grabber kills his brother in the story, he falls over him because he hits him with the axe and then is carried over him and falls down. And that's part of what lets Johnny get him in the story.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I kind of like that stuff. It seems a little more feasible that way.
Yeah, that is well done.
Than this guy who looks pretty fit. You know,
muscular Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. It almost makes me wonder if they're like, ooh, we can get Ethan Hawke for this. Okay, but now how is this kid going to get him? Well, first he's got to dig a hole that he falls into. Then he's got to find this wire that he can trip him into the hole with. You know, he had to come up with all these other things that other different kids tell him to do.
Yeah, even the freezer was the meat for the dog.
And even the grill on the window was what he fell in and broke his ankle on.
Yeah.
So like all those things needed to happen. It's almost like they made all that stuff have to happen just so they could have Ethan Hawke, a fit person, be the grabber, you know what I mean?
So they
could make a long movie,
person.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have been a short movie because what else would he have done in there?
Yeah. I'm sure it's just to make it like, is he gonna make it out? Oh no, he didn't make it. Oh, is he gonna make it out? Oh no, he didn't make it. Oh, but now he can use all these things. Because I liked that part. It's kind of like a Home Alone, Skyfall moment. When he rigs all the traps to like lure him over here, and then he falls in the hole and he breaks his ankle, and okay, now he's stuck and he can smack him. I don't know. It was pretty satisfying for me in the movie when he was beating him up and he used the traps. Also, just because he went through all those things, which in the story it just like gets really fast to it, where he's like, okay, now I'm gonna kill this fat guy.
I don't know. I guess all those things seemed like a bit much to me. Where like in the story it was described as there's like nothing in that room.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing in that room, and that's why he has to use the phone.
It is intense how he's just starving.
There's so much stuff in that room in the movie. There's so many things. Like first of all, the carpets that are in there. When I first saw that, I'm like, why are there even carpets in here? Like, just take everything out. And the fact that the grabber never notices that he put a rug down. That was down there for a while.
I was thinking the same thing. He didn't notice the hole he's digging, the rug. He didn't notice the grill was off the window.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing too. Like what?
He would have noticed that.
Like he has everything so set up.
Yeah.
He's killed like 5 other kids.
And he doesn't notice the bike lock, which is the padlock on the door, is written on the wall. He never looked around before taking the next kid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that part seemed a little funny to me too. That like, okay, clearly in the movie Finn got out by using the padlock, and then he padlocks it with the same lock again.
Oh yeah, he already made it out once.
Yeah. Well, so what is he doing? Why did he like do that? I mean, he could even have locked it. I mean, I know the lock's probably already set up to be locked from the inside, but he could have put it even just on the outside. Then he's locked in, I guess.
Yeah, he has to come in.
But then, the thing I was always wondering about is, what about that other door that's right off the kitchen? Why couldn't he go out that door?
Yeah, I thought he was going to go to that door when he was sleeping there in the chair.
Because it goes to the backyard, and it's impossible to open that. I mean, it's right next to him. I get it, but
yeah, that's what I thought was going to be the suspenseful thing. Is he has to sneak by him when he's asleep and try and get out. But yeah. So I mean, Ethan Hawke was pretty negligent, which also leads me to the police were extremely negligent if they couldn't catch negligent Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Like, why weren't they just patrolling out in the open all these times in broad daylight when the grabber
I know,
grabs
that's
people?
what they showed it in the movie, is like it's just complete broad daylight out in the open.
Big black van. They already know it's a black van. They already knew about the balloons.
There should have been balloons everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, he releases the balloons every time he takes a kid.
Yeah, and there were like 5 of them dead.
And they should have, like, this guy keeps coming in buying these balloons. You know, it's not
Yeah,
like
where's he buying
it's
them?
not, it's 1978. It's not like he's buying
not
them
ordering them
online.
from Amazon,
He's also going to the hardware store and buying tarps and
town,
stuff,
yeah.
like, all the time. He's bought an axe, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
He has a job in the town.
maybe he is actually a part-time clown. He was wearing the face
yeah, he
makeup.
was wearing the white makeup.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's just
They had
so
to be
much of
negligent
it.
because every time a kid would be reported missing, there's like
There's
9 to
so many
12
cop
cop cars just searching through the night with flashlights. But then during the daytime, where are they all? To be looking for when they have actually happened all like 5 times.
Yeah.
And like after that many kids go missing, wouldn't they just search every house in the neighborhood? Do they not get a warrant to do that? Because he had 2 houses that they never just like could go look around.
Yeah.
I thought it multiple times during the movie, even when they went inside.
It does seem like
and
they
were
would
like
station-
wrong house.
Yeah.
After barely looking around, they didn't check a few more doors. They were like, no one's responding to us saying the police are here, so wrong house. Oh wait, I found another door.
Yeah, and they would have the police would have been on patrol like every time school is out, you know, where kids might be walking home,
Exactly.
or just they'd be all over the place if 5 or 6 kids have been kidnapped
In the
over the
same
last year
neighborhood.
or whatever.
Yeah.
In the same neighborhood, yeah.
So yeah, a lot of negligence going on, but that's what makes it the conflict happen in the story, of course. Those are all the differences I noticed. I mean, the story.
Well, in the story, both of their parents are there and together.
Yeah, the mom is alive, and they just argue, and
they just argue, and
doesn't
she's
have
like,
powers.
she wants to take the kids and move. She wants them to move away which is a sensible thing. There's kids going missing here, and he's just like, you're being hysterical, and she's like, maybe I'll just leave, and she's like, he's like, wow, why don't you? Yeah, turns on the TV or whatever, which, you know, that's another thing where it's like, well, they clearly way changed that for, you know, I don't know.
To add the Shining subplot.
Yeah.
That the mom and daughter have the Shining. And
The
kid, I guess.
the only other difference I have is with Bruce Yamada, that they were both pitchers, but he describes Bruce as being better than he is. Like, he had that pop, like a champagne cork when it hits the catcher's mitt, you know?
Yeah.
And that, you know, Johnny only gave up 2 runs in that game, or whatever, but one of them is because, you know, another kid dropped a fly, you know, or whatever, and that same thing happens where they're like, good game, you know, and Bruce says something
He
slightly
says, "You
different.
were
He says,
dirty."
"You were dirty," which I like better.
That's pretty
because he also in the story brings that up again and says, like, you're gonna fight him dirty, cause, you know, whatever. So it's that same kind of repetition thing, but to me, like, dirty is more satisfying than your arm is mint. Yeah,
You almost had me there. Your arm is mint.
like, that seems like a weird thing to describe as, like, you're gonna beat him because your arm is mint, you know, as opposed to because you're dirty, you know. And also the dynamic is a little different because in the movie, Finn is pitches against Bruce, and Bruce hits a home run off his pitch, which is kind of it makes it like, you know, oh, I'm not as good as he like actually beat me.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's different. It's just subtly different, but I kind of like it better in the story. The fact that he didn't directly like hit a home run off of him. He's just also a pitcher.
them.
Yeah, he's just also a pitcher, and he was a little bit better, but also still said that he was good.
I
know?
liked how the description of that in the story of when they're just lining up and he doesn't think he'll say anything, and then he says, "You were dirty," and he gets happy.
He doesn't know what to say. He just says "good game," which he does in the movie too.
Yeah, but you get some of his thoughts where he's like, "Oh, I just said good game automatically. I wish I'd said something cool. Like, you were dirty. That was cool."
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes it interesting to hear those thoughts, and then when it comes back and he's like, you can fight him because you're dirty or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think that's all I got. That's all we got. We want to go to
wraps it up.
our final recommendations here.
Yeah.
So,
I always do that.
Yeah.
Right? For the
Yeah,
transition.
That's the thing.
Conclusions and final recommendations.
I guess do we do it in the same order?
I go first. Yeah.
Well, having read the story first and then watching the movie, I honestly think that, and actually part of this, my recommendation I'm coming up with right now after your scores and your changes on the book and the movie, to me it seems like the story to you was lowered by having watched the movie. To me, the movie was lowered by having read the story. So it does seem like it matters which one you read first.
Yeah.
So in that case, or which one you read or watch first, in that case, my recommendation will be only to read the story. And the movie is nothing incredibly special. With so many movies out there right now that are good, I don't think you need to see it.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm struggling to think of what my final recommendation is after all we talked about too, because I mean I rated the movie higher, so I want to say watch the movie first, but I don't know. This is a risky one, so like use your own critical thinking, be cautious, because whichever one you experience first is probably going to ruin the other one for you. So, if you...
Do you like really reading more than you like watching movies? Do you like watching movies more than you like reading? Maybe that colors which one you should do.
Exactly. Do you like reading horror stories, or do you like scary movies?
Yeah.
Like if you're a big scary movie fan, just watch the movie maybe. But if you're a Joe Hill, Stephen King, just horror genre reading fan, maybe just read the story. So I guess that's our final recommendation.
Okay, so yeah, when we average out our scores here for the story of The Black Phone, I give it an 8.1.
I give it a 6.5.
And that averages out to a 7.3 out of 10.
Good score.
Which, when you compare that to 3.9 as Goodreads score, which is, what did I say before? 7.8.
Yeah. So it's a little overrated.
That we think it's a little overrated. Not a lot, not much, but it's pretty close to our combined average impression is about what the average reader thinks about the story.
As for the story,
the movie.
Oh yeah. As for the story told in the film, I gave it a 7.6.
And I give it a 6.7.
That averages out to a 7.15. Also,
so we're
good
in
score.
the same place, pretty close.
Averages out to a similar score for the story.
Between the story and the movie.
But we also think the movie is overrated.
Yeah.
A little bit more overrated at the time of us watching it on opening weekend.
Yeah,
with an 84 from the critics and a 90 from the audience.
Yeah, and we seem to agree with what our discussion was about. It's not really anything special.
Yeah, not to be in a 90.
Not to be that high. Even like 84. Yeah, especially 90 with the audience. I was going to say 84 with the critics, but 90 with the audience seems, pretty high.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
It's not like Silence of the Lambs or something.
Yeah. So, if we look at where those land in our big whole list of everything, it looks like the story ties at a 7.3 with the Green Mile, the book, kind of way down there. What point is that? 12th?
12th place.
12th place on our list, tied for well, that means tied for 11th place technically, and then right behind it in 13th place is the movie.
Interesting.
Right above All the Pretty Horses, the movie. So kind of on the lower half of our list.
For sure.
For both of those.
Green Mile was a bit too long. Black Phone a bit too short, in terms of the stories. I think. So
well, our Green Mile. That's right. The Green Mile book. You're right.
Book,
yeah. You're right. Yeah. So if we put them like right at the same spot. Yeah.
So that's where they land right now. If you read or watched these at home, let us know in the comments what you think about these ones.
And yeah, as always, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified of these every month. We're excited for season 2 that this just kicks off. You know, we got a few more months. We've had a hiatus here of these reviews.
But we got more coming, and next month we are going to read Rum Punch.
Rum Punch, which was adapted into a movie by Quentin Tarantino called Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
And so we'll get to that next month.
Yeah, so if you want to read Rum Punch, it's by Elmore Leonard, and then the movie is Jackie Brown by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Excited for that one.
Yeah, and that's what we got.
We don't have an outro yet.
We still don't have an
outro.
We'll get an outro by season, I don't know, 3, 4.
5, 6.
So for right now, stay tuned. We'll see you next month.
Thanks for watching. Bye.